We are on chapter 4, page 34, the last paragraph. Page 34, the last paragraph. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 4. The coming into being of worlds. At that time, universal worthy Bodhisattva further told the great assembly, disciples of the Buddha, you should know that these seas of worlds have seas of pure expedient means, as numerous as most of us in the seas of worlds. That is to say, Bodhisattvas draw near to all good advisors with whom they share good rules in common. Their extensive cloud of merit and virtue grows until it pervades the Dharma realm. They purely cultivate magnificent, sublime liberations. They contemplate and abide in the states of all Bodhisattvas. They cultivate all paramitas to perfection. They contemplate all bodhisattva grounds, entering and dwelling within them. They give rise to a sea of pure vows. They cultivate all practices leading to liberation. They enter the seas of all adornments, and they achieve the power of pure expedient means. Such pure expedient means are as numerous as dust motes in the seas of worlds. Then universal worthy Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, received the Buddha's awesome spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions and spoke verses. The adornments throughout all seas of worlds emerge from innumerable expedients and the power of vows. The seeds of kshetras, ever luminous and bright, arise from the power of infinite pure karma. Since long ago, bodhisattvas have drawn near good advisors, together cultivating wholesome karma, completely pure. Vast kindness and compassion extends to all beings. With these, the seeds of kshetras are adorned. All methods of practice, as well as samadhis, dhyana concentrations, liberations, and expedient grounds, are cultivated in the presence of Buddhas, thereby giving rise to seeds of kshetras. As bodhisattvas gain limitless, decisive understanding, their comprehension fully matches the dust-come ones. Having cultivated a sea of patience and skill in means, they adorn and purify boundless kshetras, cultivating sublime practices to benefit beings. Their last blessings and virtue constantly grow. Like clouds spreading across the skies, all seas of kshetras are perfected. Limitless perfections, numerous as dust motes in the kshetra, have already been cultivated to completion. The infinite paramita of vows gives birth to oceans of pure kshetras. Pure cultivation of peerless dharmas initiates boundless transcendent practices. By transforming beings with sundry skill in means, Bodhisattvas thereby adorn the oceans of lands. By practicing and adorning the grounds of expedience, they enter the seas of methods derived by the Buddha's merit and virtue. When being sufferings are exhausted, vast pure kshetras come into being. Vast and peerless the sea of powers causes all beings to plant good roots, make offerings to all dust come ones, and purify boundless lands. At that time, universal worthy Bodhisattva further told the great assembly, disciples of the Buddha, you should know that each and every sea of worlds has Buddhas in different manifestations, as numerous as the most of dust in the seas of worlds. These Buddhas may manifest in small or large bodies. They may manifest short or long lifespans. They may adorn and purify only one land or limitless Buddha lands. They may reveal the Dharma wheel of the one vehicle or the Dharma wheels of inconceivably many vehicles. They may manifest the taming of a few beings or of boundless beings. Such manifestations are as numerous as the most of dust in the seas of worlds. And universal worthy Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, received the Buddha's awesome spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions, and spoke verses. The Buddha's diverse expedient means gave rise to all seas of kshetras, totally delighting sentient beings. This is the thus come one's power of skillful versatility. The Dharma body of all Buddhas is inconceivable, devoid of form, shape, or appearance. Yet for beings it manifests in myriad forms, which beings perceive according to their wishes. Perhaps they manifest a short lifespan for beings, or perhaps enjoy a long life of limitless eons. The Dharma body manifests throughout the 10 directions, appearing in worlds at opportune times. Perhaps they adorn and purify inconceivable seas of whole lands throughout the 10 directions. Or perhaps they adorn and purify only one land, manifesting in that single land and no other. Perhaps depending on what beings delight in, they display an unimaginable array of vehicles, or they may proclaim the Dharma of the one vehicle, expediently revealing limitless means within the one. Perhaps they naturally gain right enlightenment and guide a few beings to dwell in the way. Or perhaps in the space of a single thought, they enlighten confused beings beyond number. Perhaps magical clouds issue from their pores, revealing limitless, boundless Buddhas. Everyone in the world sees those Buddhas, saving beings with various skillful means. Perhaps the sound of their voices pervades everywhere as they speak Dharma to delight the hearts of beings. For inconceivable numbers of great eons, they temper and subdue limitless seas of beings. Perhaps in countless splendid lands seated majestically in pure assemblies, are Buddhas like clouds hovering above, pervading every sea of lands in the 10 directions. With inconceivable skills it means the Buddhas manifest before beings according to their thoughts, pervasively dwelling in diverse adorned kshetras. They encompass all lands everywhere. At that time, universal worthy Bodhisattva further told the great assembly, disciples of the Buddha, you should know that the durations of existence of seas of worlds are as numerous as the most of dust in the seas of worlds. That is to say, they may exist for asamkhya eons, they may exist for limitless eons, they may exist for boundless eons, they may exist for unequal eons, they may exist for innumerable eons, they may exist for inexpressible eons, they may exist for inconceivable eons, they may exist for unreckonable eons, they may exist for ineffable eons, they may exist for ineffably ineffable eons. The different durations of existence are as numerous as the modes of the senses of worlds. Then universal worthy Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, received the Buddha's awesome spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions and spoke verses. The seas of worlds with their various different eons are adorned by vast expansive expedient means. The lands of the 10 directions are completely seen, their numbers and differentiations clearly known. I behold the seas of worlds of the 10 directions, through measureless eons equal to the number of beings. They may be long or short or boundless. I now proclaim them with the Buddha's voice. I gaze up the oceans of lands of the 10 directions. Some abide for eons as numerous as Eskimos in lands. Some dwell for 1 eon, others for countless eons. Because of different vows, they are not the same. They may be completely pure or completely defiled, or perhaps a mixture of purity and defilement, established by oceanic vows, each and every one different. They dwell in the thoughts of beings' minds, past cultivation for eons as numerous as the smoking kshetras, results in magnificent pure seas of worlds. The states of all Buddhas fully adorned, endure perpetually for vast and boundless eons. Some are named light of myriad jewels, others equal sound, flaming eye treasury, and yet others immaculate light or worthy eon. This pure kalpa gathers them in one and all. A single Buddha may appear in some pure kalpas, or countless Buddhas may appear in a single kalpa. With infinite expedience and magnificent vows, they enter into different types of kalpas. Perhaps measureless kalpas enter one kalpa, perhaps one kalpa enters many kalpas. The different entrances into all seas of kalpas appear distinctly in the 10 directions lands. Perhaps the adornments of all kalpas are completely visible in a single kalpa. Perhaps adornments from a single kalpa universally appear in boundless kalpas. From a single thought and to an entire kalpa, all are produced from the thoughts of beings. The boundless kalpas of all seas of kalpas are completely purified by a single expedient. At that time, universal worthy Bodhisattva told the great assembly, disciples of the Buddha, you should know that the seas of worlds evolve through distinct stages, as numerous as most of us in the seas of worlds, specifically due to the Dharma being thus. Seas of worlds evolve through limitless stages of formation and destruction, by being inhabited by defiled beings. Seas of worlds evolve through stages of defilement, by being inhabited by beings who vastly cultivate blessings. Seas of worlds evolve through stages of defilement and purity, by being inhabited by bodhisattvas of faith and understanding. Seas of worlds evolve through stages of defilement and purity, because measureless beings bring forth the Bodhi resolve. Seeds of worlds evolve through stages, thereby they become totally purified. Because each and every Bodhisattva travels throughout all worlds, seeds of worlds evolve through stages of boundless adornments. Because all Bodhisattvas assemble like clouds from the seeds of worlds of the 10 directions, seeds of worlds evolve through stages of infinite and magnificent adornments. Because of all Buddhas, world honored ones, enter nirvana, seeds of worlds evolve through stages of solemn tranquility. Because all Buddhas appear in the world, all seeds of worlds evolve through stages whereby they become expansive, majestic, and purified. Because of the transformations of the dust come one spiritual penetrations, seeds of worlds evolve through stages whereby they universally become purified. They evolve through stages as numerous as most of dust in the seeds of worlds. Then universal worthy Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, received the Buddha's awesome spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions and spoke verses. Every land and country is born through karma's power. All of you should contemplate the characteristics of this evolution. Defiled and turbid beings are feathered by fearsome karma and delusion. By their thoughts, the oceans of lands are completely polluted. If pure-minded beings cultivate deeds of blessings and virtue, their thoughts cause the seas of lands to be partly pure and partly polluted. Bodhisattvas of faith and understanding, born in the midst of those kalpas, perceive defilement or purity depending on their thoughts. When numberless beings make the resolve for Bodhi, their thoughts make the oceans of lands abide in eons of constant purity. Limitless quotas of Bodhisattvas roam the 10 directions. Their adornments, though not different, are perceived differently through the kalpas. Each and every mode of dust contains Buddha lands in number like motes of dust. Bodhisattvas gather like clouds and all countries become pure. When the world honored ones enter nirvana, the adornments disappear from their lands. When beings lack a vessel for Dharma, the world becomes a mass of pollution. If a Buddha appears in the world, everything becomes splendid and fine. As beings' thoughts are purified, all adornments come to be. The Buddha's spiritual powers manifest inconceivable states. At that time, the oceans of lands become totally pure and clean. At that time, universal worthy Bodhisattva told the great assembly, disciples of the Buddha, you should know that the ways in which the seas of worlds are undifferentiated are as numerous as most of us in the seas of worlds. Specifically, within each and every sea of worlds, there are worlds as numerous as cosmos in the seas of worlds, and they are undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the awesome power of all Buddha's appearances is undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, all the Bodhi mantras that pervade the Dharma realms of the 10 directions are undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the assemblies of all thus come ones, Bodhimantras are undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the light of all Buddhas that pervades the Dharma realm is differentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, all Buddhas' transformations and titles are undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the voices of Buddhas, which pervade the seas of worlds for boundless eons, are undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the experience of the Dharma will are undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the ability for all seas of worlds to enter a single dustmost is undifferentiated. Within each and every sea of worlds, the manifestation in every single mode of dust of the vast realm of all Buddhas, world-honored ones of the three periods of time, is undifferentiated. Disciples of the Buddha, this is a general explanation of the ways in which the seas of worlds are undifferentiated. If one were to extensively speak about them, the ways in which they are undifferentiated are as numerous as most of us in the seas of worlds. Then universal worthy Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, received the Buddha's awesome spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions, and spoke verses. A single dustmost holds many seas of kshatras, each splendid, pure, and distinctly placed. Thus the measureless enter the one, yet the separate entities do not mix. In each and every dustmost inconceivable Buddhas, manifest everywhere according to being's thoughts. Their presence pervades all seas of kshetras. Such expedient means are undifferentiated. In each and every most of dust are kings of trees, draped with myriad adornments. The lands of the 10 directions simultaneously appear, yet there is no differentiation among them. In every dustmost are beings as numerous as dustmosts. They surround the Lord of humans, who transcends all and pervades all worlds, yet there is no swimming or disarray. In each and every dustmost infinite light pervades the lands of the 10 directions. It reveals the Buddha's practices for Bodhi, undifferentiated throughout all seas of lands. In each and every dustmost are infinite bodies, with cloud-like transformations pervading everywhere, using the Buddha's spiritual penetrations to guide beings. It is no different in the lands of the 10 directions. Myriad dharmas are pronounced in every most of dust. Such dharmas are pure like revolving wheels, whereas free and easy expedient methods are expressed without differentiation. In a single most of dust, all Buddha sounds are proclaimed, filling up beings who are vessels for the Dharma, pervading oceans of lands for countless eons. Such sounds are also undifferentiated. The infinite wondrous adornments of oceans of lands enter into every single most of dust. Such spiritual powers of the Buddhas arise from the nature of karma. In every dustmost, the Buddhas of the three periods of time manifest all the sights that delight beings, neither arriving nor departing in essence. They pervade all worlds by the power of their vows. End of chapter 4. Praise to the Sangha. In the flower adornment oceanic assembly, those on the 10 holy and 3 worthy stages, with floral platforms and jewel thrones from the heavens. Their Dhamma realm is vast and boundless. They aid the Buddhas to teach widely, and golden lotuses well up out of the earth. Chapter 21. Now we change the book to chapter 21. Chapter 21, the 10 Practices. At that time, forest of merit and virtue, Bodhisattva received the Buddha's spiritual power and entered into the Bodhisattva's skillful contemplation samadhi. After entering the samadhi in each of the 10 directions, from worlds countless as fine particles in the myriad Buddha lands, were Buddhas as many as fine particles in the myriad Buddha lands, all of whom were named forest of merit and virtue. All of them appeared before him and spoke these words to forest of merit and virtue, Bodhisattva. Good indeed, disciple of the Buddha, that you can enter this skillful contemplation samadhi. Good man, this is conferred upon you by all of these Buddhas, in each of the 10 directions, in number like fine particles in 10,000 Buddha lands, who bear the same name. It is also due to the power of the past vows of Vairocana, Tathagata, and to his awesome spiritual strength, as well as to the power of the assembled Bodhisattva's roots of goodness, that you can enter this samadhi and proclaim the Dharma. In order to grow in the Buddha's wisdom, in order to enter deeply the Dharma realm, in order to understand the realm of beings, in order to become unobstructed, in order to be unhindered in cultivation, in order to obtain measureless experience, in order to gather back the nature of all wisdom, in order to enlighten to all dharmas, in order to know all faculties, and in order to uphold and speak all dharmas. That is to say, in order to begin the 10 kinds of practices of all bodhisattvas. Good man, you should receive the Buddha's awesome spiritual power and proclaim this Dharma. At that time, all of the Buddhas immediately gave forests of merit and virtue, bodhisattva, unobstructed wisdom, unattached wisdom, uninterrupted wisdom, teacherless wisdom, undiluted wisdom, unchanging wisdom, unhearing wisdom, limitless wisdom, unsurpassed wisdom, unflagging wisdom, and inalienable wisdom. And why? Because this is the Dharma of this Samadhi's power. At that time, each of the Buddhas extended his right hand and rubbed the crown of forest of merit and virtue, Bodhisattva's head. Then forest of merit and virtue, Bodhisattva immediately arose from his samadhi and said to all the Bodhisattvas, disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva's practices are inconceivable. They are equal with the Dharma realm and the realm of space. And why? Because all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, learn from Buddhas of the 3 periods of time and then cultivate. Disciples of the Buddha, what are the bodhisattva, mahasattvas' practices? Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva has 10 kinds of practices that have been proclaimed by all Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. What are the 10? The first is the practices of happiness. The second is the practice of benefiting. The third is the practice of non-opposition. The fourth is the practice of perseverance. The fifth is the practice of freedom from confusion. The sixth is the practice of wholesome manifestation. The seventh is the practice of non-attachment. The eighth is the practice of difficult attainment. The ninth is the practice of wholesome dharma. The 10th is the practice of truth. These are the 10. Disciples of the Buddha, what is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's practice of happiness? Disciples of the Buddha, this Bodhisattva is a great benefactor. He can graciously give away all things with equanimity, free of stinginess and regret. He doesn't expect a reward, nor does he seek reputation or fame. He is not greedy for material benefits. He gives only to save and protect living beings, to take all beings into his care, and to benefit all beings. He gives in order to emulate the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to recollect the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to delight in the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to purify the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to further develop the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to uphold the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to review the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, to proclaim the fundamental practices of all Buddhas, and to cause all beings to leave suffering and attain bliss. Disciples of the Buddha, when the Bodhisattva Mahasangha cultivates this practice, he brings happiness and joy to all beings. Wherever there is poverty, he uses the power of his wealth to be reborn there as a wealthy and noble person, possessing inexhaustible riches and treasures. Suppose then, in thought after thought, limitless, numberless beings come to the Bodhisattva and say, Humane One, we are poor and without sustenance. We are starving, emaciated, and in dire straits. We are close to death. We only wish you would give us the flesh of your own body to eat so that we might continue to live. At that time, the Bodhisattva promptly gives it to them, making them happy and satisfied. And even though measureless hundreds of thousands of beings come to beg from him in this way, the Bodhisattva never once retreats in fear, but only increases his kindness and compassion. Because of this, living beings all come to beg from him, and when the Bodhisattva sees them, he becomes even more joyful. He thinks this is a good opportunity. These beings are a field of blessings. They are my good friends. Without being asked, they are coming to teach me how to enter the Buddha Dharma. I should now cultivate and study in this way and not oppose the wishes of all these beings. He further reflects, I vow that all the roots of goodness I have already planted, am now planting and will bring me to obtain an immense body so that I can use its flesh to feed and satisfy all the starving beings in all worlds. If there is even a single tiny being who hasn't eaten his fill, I vow not to give up my life. The flesh I cut off this body will also be inexhaustible. With these fruits of goodness, I vow to attain Anuttara Samya Sambodhi and realize Mahanirvana. I vow that all beings who eat my flesh will also attain Anuttara Samya Sambodhi, obtain the wisdom of equanimity, become perfect in all Buddha Dharmas, and extensively do the Buddha's works up to and including entering Nirvana without remainder. If there is a single living being whose heart is not satisfied, I will not realize Anuttara Samya Sambodhi. The Bodhisattva in this way benefits beings and has no concept of self, no concept of beings, no concept of existence, and no concept of a life. He doesn't have the various kinds of concepts, no concept of Buddha, no concept of himself as a person, no concept of Manavaka, no concept of a door or of a receiver. He only contemplates the Dharma realm, the realm of beings, the Dharma of boundlessness, the Dharma of emptiness, the Dharma of non-existence, the Dharma of marvellousness, the Dharma of being without substance, the Dharma of having no location, the Dharma of non-reliance, and the Dharma of non-doing. When he contemplates in this way, he does not see himself, nor does he see anything given, nor any receiver. He does not see a field of blessings, nor karma, nor retribution, nor fruition. He does not see a great fruition. He does not see a small fruition. Then the Bodhisattva contemplates how all the bodies received by beings of the past, present, and future soon perish, and he reflects how remarkable that living beings are so foolish and ignorant. Amid birth and death, they receive countless weak and fragile bodies that quickly decay and perish. They may have already perished, are now perishing, or are about to perish, and yet no one is able to use their unstable body to seek a stable body. I should study all that the Buddhas have studied, attain to all wisdom, and understand all dharmas. I should proclaim the equality of the three periods of time for all living beings and accord with the tranquility of the indestructible Dharma nature. I should have them find eternal peace and happiness. Disciples of the Buddha, this is called the practice of happiness, the first practice of Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Namo Sammanto Modonan Apolati Hato Janami Anjimi Jimi Tantakatanam Moa Shanting Polati Udammo Dhammo Tantakatanam Moa Om Pansaha Namo Sammanto Modonan Apolati Hato Janami Anjimi Jimi Tantakatanam Moa Shanting Polati Udammo Dhammo Tantakatanam Moa Om Pansaha Namo Sammanto Modona Apolati Hato Janami Anjimi Jimi Tantakatana Moa Shanting Polati Udammo Dhammo Tantakatana Moa Om Pansaha. Praise Father for the assembly in the ocean of practices. The waves surge and billow. Clouds display the doors of kindness. Upon in the Yama heaven, cloud-like multitudes arrive. They circumambulate the honored Dharma King. Flowers rain down in colorful profusion, and the entire assembly is majestically present. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because all hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Nam Mô Đa Phương Quang Phổ Hoa Yên Jing Hoa Yên Hai Hui Phổ菩萨.
Chapter 21 continue with a practice 2, page 13. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, the profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I have come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Disciples of the Buddha, what is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's practice of benefiting? This Bodhisattva protects and upholds the pure precepts towards sight, sound, smells, tastes, and sensations of touch. His mind is unattached. He also instructs beings in this way. He does not seek power, social status, wealth, appearance, or a king's throne. He is completely unattached to all such things. He only firmly upholds the pure precepts. He has this thought: I am holding the pure precepts. I should forsake and leave behind all bonds and fetters, greedy seeking, annoying afflictions, all oppressive hardships, slander, confusion, and turbidity, and obtain the unbiased proper Dharma that the Buddhas praise. Disciples of the Buddha, suppose that one day while the Bodhisattva is maintaining pure precepts in this manner, numberless trillions of nayutas of thoroughly malevolent demons come to the Bodhisattva, each bringing measureless, numberless trillions of nayutas or goddesses, all of whom are skillful in taking liberties with the five desires. They are glamorous and beautiful, and able to seduce a man's heart. They carry many kinds of extraordinarily valuable curios in order to disturb the Bodhisattva's will for the way. At that time, the Bodhisattva thinks like this: the five desires are dharmas that obstruct the way, even to the point of preventing supreme enlightenment. Therefore, I will not give rise to a single thought or desire. I will keep my mind as pure as the Buddha's. I would use desire only as an expedient to teach and transform beings. Even so, I would never forsake the mind for all wisdom. Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva would never allow his own desires to trouble a single being. He would rather give up his life than ever act in a way that disturbs another being. Ever since the Bodhisattva had a vision of the Buddha, his mind has never produced a single thought or desire. How much the less would he ever follow and actually act on desire? Such a thing would be impossible. At that time, the Bodhisattva has this thought only. All beings throughout the long night constantly think about the five desires, pursue the five desires, and covet the five desires. Their minds are fixated on and infatuated with the five desires, yet mixing with them cannot bring self-mastery and freedom. I should now cause all these demons, goddesses, and all beings to dwell in unsurpassed precepts. Once they dwell in pure precepts, their minds will not retreat from all wisdom, and they will obtain Anuttara Samyap Sambodhi, and finally enter Nirvana with the remainder. And why? Because this is the work that I should do. I should follow all Buddhas and learn to cultivate in this way. Having learned this, I will abandon all bad conduct and ignorance of calculating for myself. I will rely on wisdom to enter the Dharma of all Buddhas, and then proclaim it for all beings so they get rid of all delusion. Nevertheless, I know there is no delusion apart from beings, and there are no beings apart from delusion. Beings are not being delusion. Delusion is not within beings. Also, delusion is not beings, and beings are not delusion. Delusion is not an internal dharma. Delusion is not an external dharma. Beings are not an internal dharma. Beings are not an external dharma. All dharmas are false and unreal. They arise quickly and then just as quickly disappear. They are ephemeral, like dreams, shadows, illusions, and transformations. They deceive ordinary, ignorant people. One who understands this can immediately awaken to all practices, penetrate birth and death as well as nirvana, and realize the Buddha's Bodhi. He can save himself and save others. He can liberate himself and liberate others. He can pour himself and cause others to be tamed. He can attain tranquility himself and help others to attain tranquility. He can be secure himself and enable others to be secure. He can leave defilement and lead others to leave defilement. He can purify himself and purify others. He can enter nirvana and lead others to enter nirvana. He can find happiness and make others happy. Disciples of the Buddha, this Bodhisattva thinks moreover, I should follow all that's come once and leave behind all worldly practices, perfect all Buddha dharmas, dwell in the place of unsurpassed equality, contemplate beings equally and clearly understand all states.
I shall avoid all errors, cut off all discriminations, renounce all attachments, skillfully make my escape, and hold my mind to constantly dwell in unsurpassed, inexpressible, independent, steadfast, measureless, boundless, inexhaustible, formless, most profound wisdom.
Disciples of the Buddha, this is called the practice of benefiting, the second practice of the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Practice 3, Disciples of the Buddha. What is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's practice of non-opposition? This Bodhisattva always cultivates the dharmas of patience. He is humble and respectful. He does not harm himself or others or their relationship. He does not grasp after self, grasp after others, or grasp at their relationship. He is not attached to self, to others, or to their relationship. He also does not covet the reputation, benefits, or offerings. He only has the thought, I should constantly speak the Dharma for beings, so that they leave behind all evil, so that they cut off greed, anger, stupidity, ignorance, complaints, stinginess, jealousy, flattery, and deceits, and so that they constantly abide in forbearance and harmony. Disciples of the Buddha, in this practice the Bodhisattva accomplishes such dharmas of patience and peace.
Suppose trillions of nayutas of samkhayas of beings come to him, and each being produces trillions of nayutas of samkhayas of mouths, and each mouth utters trillions of nayutas of samkhayas of words.
Unhappy words, unwholesome words, displeasing words, undesirable words, words that are not benevolent or virtuous, words not of the wisdom of sages, words that do not accord with sagehood, words that sages stay far away from, words that are intensely detestable, and words that are not fit to hear, to slander and insult the Bodhisattva. Further, suppose these beings, each with trillions or nayutas or asankhayas or hands, wield trillions or nayutas or asankhayas or weapons to also to injure the Bodhisattva. Suppose this goes on for asankhayas or eons without cease. When the Bodhisattva has undergone such intense cruelty, until all his hair stands on end and his life is about to end, he thinks, if my mind is swayed and confused by this torment, then I have not subdued myself, I have not guarded myself, I do not understand myself, I have not cultivated, I have not attained proper concentration or tranquility, I do not cherish myself and I give rise to attachment. So how could I enable others to attain purity of mind? The Bodhisattva further reflects, in the past for years without beginning, I had dwelt in birth and death and endured suffering and grief.
As I reflect in this way, I once again urge myself on, purify my mind, attain happiness and discipline, and collect myself. When I can abide in the Buddha Dharma, then I can cause beings to attain this Dharma as well.
Moreover, he thinks this body is still and empty. Without itself or what belongs to self, it has no reality. It is empty in nature, it is non-dual. The suffering and bliss that it experiences do not exist because all dharmas are empty. I should understand this and proclaim it far and wide for all beings, so they can do away with these fears. Therefore, although I have met with this bitter torment, I should endure it out of compassion for beings, to benefit beings, to make beings peaceful and happy, out of pity for beings, to gather in beings and not abandon them, to attain enlightenment myself and to bring others to enlightenment, so that my mind does not retreat and so that I may advance along the Buddha's way. This is called a practice of non-opposition. The third practice is of the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. Practice for disciples of the Buddha. What is the Bodhisattva? Mahasattva's practice, perseverance. This Bodhisattva cultivates every vigor, foremost vigor, great vigor, excellent vigor, supreme vigor, superlative vigor, sublime vigor, exalted vigor, unsurpassed vigor, unequaled vigor, and universal vigor. He has done of the three poisons. He is not arrogant, he is not covered over, he is not stingy or jealous, he is without flattery or deceit. He knows shame and remorse. To the end, he would never practice vigor in order to disturb a single being.
He practices vigor only to cut himself free from all afflictions. He practices vigor only to pull up the roots of all delusions.
He practices vigor only to get rid of all bad habits. He practices vigor only to know the Dharma realms of all beings. He practices vigor only to know where and how beings are born and die. He practices vigor only to know all beings' afflictions. He practices vigor only to know what delights the hearts of all beings. He practices vigor only to know the states of mind of all beings. He practices vigor only to know the excellence or deficiency of all beings' faculties. He practices vigor only to know the mental activities of all beings. He practices vigor only to know all Dharma realms. He practices vigor only to know the essence of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to know the equality of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to know the equality of the three periods of time. He practices vigor only to obtain the wisdom light of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to realize the wisdom of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to know the unified characteristic of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to know the boundlessness of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to obtain the vast, decisive, skillful wisdom of all Buddha Dharmas. He practices vigor only to obtain the wisdom to analyze and proclaim the phrases and meanings of all Buddha Dharmas. Disciples of the Buddha, suppose that when the Bodhisattva Mahasattva accomplishes vigor in this way, somebody says, would you, for the sake of each and every being in numberless worlds, pass through numberless eons in the avijji, health, enduring all manner of suffering, that would enable those beings to meet numberless Buddhas appear in the world, and as a result, seeing the Buddhas to be filled with joy and eventually enter nirvana without remainder. And only then would you accomplish Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Could you do this? He answers, I could.
Another person may say, with a single strand of hair, you should empty out drop by drop all the water in measureless sankhya's of great seas. You should grind measureless sankhya's of world systems into dust. You should count the drops of water and the motes of dust one by one until you know their total number. Then in thought after thought, for the number of eons, endure continuous suffering for the sake of beings. Upon hearing these words, the Bodhisattva does not have a single thought of regret or resentment.
He only becomes more joyful, and he feels profoundly fortunate to have received such a beneficial opportunity to liberate these beings from suffering forever. The Bodhisattva employs the skillful expedient means to lead all beings in all worlds to ultimately reach nirvana without remainder. This is called the practice of perseverance, the fourth practice of the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Practice 5. Disciples of the Buddha. What is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's practice of freedom from confusion? This Bodhisattva accomplishes correct mindfulness. His mind is not scattered or confused. He is firm and imperturbable and of the utmost purity. It is vast grace, measureless and free from doubts and delusion. And because of his proper mindfulness, he is good at understanding all the languages of the world. He can explain well transcendent Dharma. That is to say, he can remember the explanations of the Dharma of form and formlessness. He can remember the explanation of how the essential nature of form is settled, as well as the explanation of how feelings, thoughts, formations, and consciousness are settled, without any confusion in his mind. In the world he dies in one place and is born in another, yet his mind is free of confusion. He enters and leaves the womb, and his mind is free of confusion. He brings forth the result for Bodhi, yet his mind is free of confusion. He serves good teachers, and his mind is free of confusion. He diligently cultivates the Buddha Dharma, and his mind is free of confusion. He recognizes the deeds of demons, and his mind is free of confusion. He keeps apart from demonic karma, and his mind is free of confusion.
He cultivates the practice of a bodhisattva for inexpressibly many eons, and his mind is free of confusion.
When the Bodhisattva accomplishes a measureless amount of correct mindfulness in this way, for limitless ascent years or eons, he hears the proper Dharma from all Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and good wise teachers. That is to say, hear his profound Dharma, vast Dharma, adorned Dharma, variously adorned Dharma, Dharma expounding various words, sentences, and bodies of text, Dharma concerning the adornments of Bodhisattvas, the unsurpassed Dharma of the Buddha's spiritual power and light, the pure Dharma of the proper aspiration for decisive understanding, Dharma that is not attached to any world, Dharma that distinguishes all worlds, extremely vast and great Dharma, Dharma that abandons the cataracts of ignorance and illuminates all beings. All world is shared and unshared Dharma, supreme Dharma of Bodhisattva's wisdom, and the sovereign Dharma of omniscience. When the Bodhisattva hears Dharma such as this, even were he to pass through an asankya of eons, he would never forget it or let it slip. His mind constantly recollects it without the slightest pause. And why? When the Bodhisattva Mahasattva cultivated his practices during measureless eons, he never troubled or upset a single being in a way that would cause the loss of proper mindfulness. He did not abuse the proper Dharma or cut off the woods of goodness. Therefore, he continuously expanded his vast great wisdom.
Moreover, this Bodhisattva Mahasattva cannot be thrown into confusion by the various kinds of sounds Loud sounds, coarse and foul sounds, extremely terrifying sounds, pleasant sounds, unpleasant sounds,
Noisy, glamorous sounds that disturb the hearing and sounds that damage the six faculties. When the Bodhisattva hears measureless, numberless, good and evil sounds such as these, filling up chaos of worlds, his mind is not distracted or disturbed even for a single thought. That is to say, his proper mindfulness is not disturbed, his stage is not disturbed, his samadhi is not disturbed, his entry into most profound Dharma is not disturbed, his cultivation of Bodhi conduct is not disturbed, his Bodhi resolve is not disturbed, his recollection of all Buddhas is not disturbed, his contemplation of the true and actual Dharma is not disturbed, the wisdom with which he transforms being is not disturbed, the wisdom with which he purifies beings is not disturbed, and his decisive understanding of the most profound meaning is not disturbed. Because he does not create evil karma does not hinder him. Because he does not become afflicted, affliction do not hinder him. Because he does not slight the dharmas do not hinder him. Because he does not slander the proper dharma, retribution does not hinder him. Disciples of the Buddha, even if each of the sounds described above filled up chaos of worlds and continue without cease for numberless aeons, capable of ruin and confusing beings' bodies, minds, and all of their faculties, they would not be able to harm this Bodhisattva's mind.
the Bodhisattva enters samadhi and abides in the Dhamma of sages. He reflects on and contemplates all sounds. He skillfully knows how every sound arises, continues, and disappears. He thoroughly understands the nature of the origin, existence, and disappearance of all sounds.
Having heard such sounds, he does not become greedy, angry, or distracted. He skillfully perceives their qualities and yet is not attached to them. He knows that sounds do not exist and are in reality unobtainable. They have no creator and no origin. They are identical with the Dharma realm. There is no difference. The Bodhisattvas in this way accomplishes tranquility in the conduct of his body, mouth, and mind. He reaches omniscience and never retreats. He skillfully enters the gates of every chance samadhi. He knows that all samadhis are of one essence. He knows that all dharmas are boundless. He gains the true and actual wisdom of all dharmas. He gains a profound samadhi that leaves us behind. He gains chaos of gaze of samadhi, and his great compassion becomes limitless fast. At this time, the Bodhisattva in a single thought gains numberless hundreds or thousands of samadhis. His mind is neither deluded nor confused. When he hears such sounds, instead they gradually increase and broaden his samadhi. And he thinks, I should bring all beings to abide peacefully in unsurpassed pure mindfulness and gain irreversibility in omniscience, and ultimately to accomplish nirvana without remainder. This is called freedom from confusion, the fifth practice of the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Practice 6. Disciples of the Buddha. What is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's practice of wholesome manifestation?
This Bodhisattva's body karma, speech karma, and mind karma are all pure. He dwells in non-attainment and displays non-attainment with his physical, verbal, and mental deeds. He knows that the three modes of karma do not exist.
Since he is apart from falseness, he is free from bondage. Everything he manifests has no nature and does not depend on anything. He abides in real thoughts. He knows the nature of measureless thought. He knows that the nature of all dharmas is unattainable, formless, most profound and difficult to understand. He abides in the correct position within the dharma nature of true suchness, and skillfully manifests birth while being free from karma and retribution. Unborn and undying, he abides in nirvana and abides in tranquility. He abides in the true nature which is devoid of a nature and beyond the reach of words and speech. He transcends the world and is not dependent upon anything. He enters the Dharma which is apart from discrimination, bondage, and attachment. He enters the true Dharma or supreme wisdom. He enters the transcendental Dharma which none in the world can understand. Such are the characteristics of the Bodhisattva, skillful manifestation of birth. Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, thinks in this way. The nature of all beings is that they have no nature. The nature of all dharmas is that they are unconditioned. The characteristic of all lands is that they are beyond characteristics. The three periods of time are nothing but words. Within dharmas, words have no basis. Within words, dharmas also have no basis. In this way, the Bodhisattva understands that dharmas are extremely profound, that everything in the world is tranquil, that nothing can be added to the Buddha Dharma, that the Buddha Dharma does not differ from worldly dharmas, and worldly dharmas do not differ from the Bodhi Dharma, and that while the Bodhi Dharma and worldly dharmas are not intermingled, there is no difference between them.
He understands that the fundamental nature of the Dhammarim is impartial, and he enters everywhere into the three periods of time. He never forsakes the great resolve of Bodhi. He never retreats from the resolve to teach beings. His great compassion only increases, and he serves as a refuge for all beings.
At that time, the Bodhisattva further reflects, if I do not bring beings to maturity, who will? If I do not tame and subdue beings, who will? If I do not teach and transform beings, who will? If I do not enlighten beings, who will? If I do not lead beings to purity, who will? I should do this, I must. He further thinks, if I understand this extremely profound Dharma, then only I will attain the liberation of Anuttara Samyapsambodhi, while beings being blind and confused wander along dangerous paths, bound by their afflictions. They are like severely ill people who are in constant pain. They cannot escape by themselves from the prison of greed and desire. They cannot leave King Yama's realm or the realms of the hells, hungry ghosts and animals. They cannot put an end to their suffering, nor can they forsake their evil deeds. Always abiding in folly and darkness, they do not see the truth. They resolve on the wheel of birth and death and cannot escape it. They dwell in the eight difficulties and are caught up in every sort of defilement. Layer upon layer of fiction obscures their minds. They are confused by wrong views and do not follow the right path. After contemplating beings in this way, the Bodhisattva thinks, if these beings have not yet been brought to maturity and have not yet been tamed and subdued, it would not be right for me to forsake them and seek Anuttara Samyapsambodhi. I should first transform beings and for an inexpressible number of eons, cultivate the practices of the Bodhisattva. Before seeking Anuttara Samyapsambodhi, I will first bring to maturity those who have not been brought to maturity. I will first tame and subdue those who have not been tamed and subdued. If any gods, demons, brahmas, shamanas, brahmins, Gandharvas, Asuras, and others get to see the Bodhisattva when he abides in this practice, or or if they briefly dwell together with him, or respect and venerate him, or serve and make offerings to him, or if they merely hear his name so that it passes through their mind, they will not have done so in vain. They will certainly accomplish Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. This is the practice of wholesome manifestation, the sixth practice of the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Practice 7 disciples of the Buddha. What is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's practice of non-attachment? Disciples of the Buddha, this Bodhisattva with an untouched mind, in thought after thought can enter an asankaya of worlds and adorn and purify an asankaya of worlds without being attached to any of them. His visits and asankaya or tathagatas and respectfully bows, serves, and makes offerings to them. He makes offering of asankayas of flowers, asankaya of perfumes, asankayas of garlands, asankaya of paste incense, powdered incense, garlands, jewelry, banners, pendants, wonderful canopies, and asankayas of other decorations. He makes offerings in this way in order to reach the ultimate uncreated Dharma, and in order to dwell in the inconceivable Dharma. In thought after thought, he beholds numberless Buddhas, yet his mind is not attached to the Buddha, nor to the Buddha's land, nor to the Buddha's hallmarks and characteristics. He beholds the Buddha's radiance and hears the Buddha speak the Dharma without becoming attached. He has no attachment to the worlds in all 10 directions, nor to the assemblies of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Having heard the Buddha Dharma, he is happy. His resolve becomes vast and great, and he can undertake and cultivate all Bodhisattva practices.
However, neither does he attach to the Buddha Dharma. During inexpressible aeons, this Bodhisattva sees inexpressibly many Buddhas appear in the world. Wherever they are, he serves and makes offerings to every Buddha throughout an inexpressible number of eons, and never becomes weary of it without becoming attached.
He sees the Buddha, sees the Dharma, and beholds the adornments of the Bodhisattva's assemblies. He sees impure worlds and yet does not love them. And why? Because these Bodhisattva's contemplations are in accord with the Buddha Dharma. Within the Buddha Dharma there is neither defilement nor purity, neither darkness nor light, neither difference nor unity, neither truth nor falsehood, neither security nor danger, neither right path nor wrong path. The Bodhisattva in this way enters deeply into the Dharma realm. He teaches and transforms beings, yet towards beings he remains unattached. He understands and practices all dharmas, yet towards all dharmas he remains unattached. He resolves to realize Bodhi and abides where the Buddhas abide, yet towards the Buddha's dwelling he remains unattached. He uses language, yet towards language his mind remains unattached. He enters the destinies of beings, yet towards the destinies of beings his mind remains unattached. He understands samadhis and can enter them and abide in them, yet towards samadhis his mind remains unattached. He visits the limitless Buddha lands, but when he arrives in them, sees them, and resides in them, towards Buddha lands his mind remains unattached. When it is time to leave and move on, he does not look back with longing. Because the Bodhisattva Mahasattva is able to remain unattached in this way, within the Buddha Dharma his mind is unobstructed. He understands the Buddha's Bodhi and masters the Dharma of Vinaya teachings. He abides in the proper teaching of the Buddha and cultivates the Bodhisattva conduct. He abides in the Bodhisattva's heart and reflects upon the methods of the Bodhisattva's liberation. Yet his mind remains unsullied by attachment to the Bodhisattva's abode, nor is he attached to what Bodhisattvas practice. He follows the Bodhisattva path in purity and receives the prediction of a Bodhisattva.
Having received this prediction, he thinks, common people are ignorant, they know nothing and see nothing, they lack faith and understanding, they are neither intelligent nor clever, dull and obtuse, greedy and attached, they drift in birth and death and never seek to see the Buddhas. They neither follow bright guides or believe in regulating masters. In their confusion, they stray onto dangerous paths.
They fail to respect the king or 10 powers and to realize the kindness of the Bodhisattvas. Attached to what they abide in, they are terrified when they hear of the emptiness of Dharma. They leave the proper Dharma far behind and abide in deviant Dharmas. They forsake the level, peaceful way and instead enter perilous and difficult paths. They reject the ideas of the Buddhas and pursue the ideas of demons. They cling tightly to existence and cannot let go. As the Bodhisattva contemplates all beings in this way, he increases his great compassion and his wholesome qualities come forth, yet he remains unattached. At this time, the Bodhisattva thinks further. For a single being, I should spend an inexpressible number of eons in each and every country in the world in all 10 directions to teach that being and bring him to all to maturity. What I do for this one being, I will do for all beings, never becoming weary or leaving them behind. Moreover, I will measure out the Dharma realm with a strand of hair, and on the tip of a single hair I will spend an inexpressible number of eons teaching and subduing all beings. What I do on the tip of one hair, I'll do on the tip of each and every hair. Not even for the moment it takes to snap my finger will I attach to self or entertain a thought on me or to mine. On the tip of each and every hair I will cultivate Bodhisattva conduct to the end of the future, without becoming attached to my body, to dharmas, to thoughts or to vows. Nor will I become attached to samadhi, to contemplation, to still concentration, to states of mind, to teaching and subduing of beings, or to entering the Dharma realm. And why? The Bodhisattva has his thoughts. I should contemplate the entire Dharma realm as an illusion.
All Buddhas as reflections, the Bodhisattva practices as dreams, and the Buddha's discourses on Dharma as echoes. All worlds are like transformations because they are upheld by karmic retribution. Differentiated bodies are like illusions because they come about from the power of what we do. All living beings are like the mind because they have many kinds of defilements, and all dharmas are like the limit of reality because they cannot be altered.
He further thinks in the countries in all 10 directions to the ends of space. Throughout the Dharma realm I will cultivate Bodhisattva conduct. In thought after thought I will clearly understand all Buddha Dharmas and be properly mindful without becoming attached. Namo Samanto Modona Napala Dihata Sejana Ajimi Jimi Danda Gadana Mawa Sante Pala Di Wudan Modan Modanda Gadana Mawa Pansa Namo Samanto Modona Napala Dihata Sejana Mi Ajimi Jimi Danda Gadana Mawa Sante Pala Di Wudan Modan Danda Gadana Mawa Pansa Namo Samanto Modana Napala Dihata Sejana Mi Ajimi Jimi Danda Gadana Mawa Sante Pala Di Wudan Modan Modanda Gadana Mawa Pansa. Praise for the fourth assembly. In the ocean of practices, the waves surge and billow, Clouds display the doors of kindness. Up in the Yama heaven, cloud-like multitudes arrive. They circumambulate the honored Dharma king. Flowers rain down in colorful profusion, and the entire assembly is majestically present. Dedication of merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiance with light, share the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to grace, compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of the endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of hate turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. 3 bows. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master,